Okay, I'm up here. I've climbed up quite a bit up on this ridge, and we've got Mount Rainier back in the background there, you can see, and then you can see Mount Si and Little Si in the background, and then the area going up the middle fork of the Snoqualmie there, and then you've got North Bend below Mount Si. And you can see Tiger Mountain over there and a little bit of Cougar in the background. It's nice. We haven't had too much CO2 emissions during the pandemic here, and so the skies have been fairly clear, even on a day like today where it's a little overcast, and you know, the particulates and pollution from cars and whatnot are going to want to hang out a little bit more. So we've got a stand here that was cut about 6 years ago, so the trees are about 5 years old or so, mostly Douglas fir. We planted some cedar. We've got some cottonwood coming up here, which is a good indicator that there's probably some underground aquifer water happening here. There's definitely, in this pull out over there, you can see there's more cottonwood, and it's wet over in there still, so there's a kind of a seep around here somewhere. And we've got some volunteer Douglas fir that's come in, and we've got the Douglas fir that we've planted. You can see that one's even starting to get cones, and so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 whorls or 6 whorls on these. That means that's a whorl is the space in between the trees. Douglas fir grows very symmetrically. Each year it puts out a new whorl. You can see the top of the leader there has buds. That's going to come out, and you see about 2 feet down is another bunch of lateral branches coming out. That's another node area basically, and then another 2 feet below that is another. And so you can count those as whorls and then be able to age the tree for Douglas fir, which can be a handy thing to do if you don't know the stand age and have clear whorls to count. We've got some trillium back there growing, and a lot of this ribes sanguineum, which is a currant, a ribes gooseberry, very beautiful, nice spring natural plant that we have here. And we've got some sword fern. You know, this is pretty typical. And some foxglove, which isn't a natural native species, but we sure do like it. And then we have an invasive over here, this holly, which is horrible. That one's young enough, I'm probably going to end up pulling it out, trying to get rid of holly. But we also have this great little road bank here, road cut, that it's small, but what I'm going to do is cut back into it a little bit and kind of open up the face here of the profile and give you an idea of what this profile will look like, kind of clear off all this material. So give me a chance to do that, and we'll take a look at the horizons. Okay, we're back. We've got our pit slash shaving or clearing of a road cut exposed here and dug, and we're going to lay out the horizons and talk about the horizons now. You can see I made it to about 60 centimeters before hitting this huge rock here that I couldn't end up moving or digging out. It was too large, so I stopped. Well, let's start at the top with the O horizon, which is these grasses, pieces of leaves from the different plants that we have here. The ribes, this is fireweed, There's some blackberry in here, sword fern, and we've got pieces of bark and things like that that basically kind of make up the O horizon. Here there's a lot, you know, of exposed rock in this site too. It has been recently disturbed, but that's kind of you know, par for the course here in industrial forest area where we've just logged. And you can see here, and this is partly the reason you know, you can tell it was logged. It's because our O horizon isn't necessarily that large, and our A horizon is kind of weak as well as far as depth goes. It does exist, however. You can, oh, let me get the spray bottle, the soil bucket. And you can see here, see how the water kind of helps with the color, unless you spray too much, and then it can get a little muddied. But you can definitely see here it's not very planar, it's discontinuous, this A horizon, but this is the A horizon here, where you're going from this is, you know, humus material here where you can barely distinguish what it is, whereas the top of the O horizon you can distinguish what it is. But once you're getting into this darker A horizon, which again isn't very deep here, you can that's mostly humus, and then getting into this reddish brownish B horizon pretty quickly. There's not much of a gradation like on some of the other soils we've seen, where you go from the dark brown A horizon into kind of a grayer, lightish brown B horizon, and then getting into the redder B horizon. This is already kind of on the surface here. Part of it is the location where we're at. We're up on a ridge. This is definitely glacially influenced. We've got round glacial outwash rocks here. Here's a nice rock. And so we got glacial parent material. It definitely hit the parent material down here. So this is kind of shallow soil as well, right? You know, it's only 60 centimeters in some spots. It's probably deeper in others, but because we've only had 10,000 years to, or 12,000 to make this soil, it's only gotten, you know, 60 centimeters, maybe to a meter deep in some areas. We would definitely, you know, if we were undercover in a forested area that hadn't been touched, I bet we'd have more O horizon for sure, and a deeper A horizon. So we'll take a look at some of those soils later and contrast and compare those. So this one's kind of boring. We really just have that thin A and then a B1 from, you know, our A horizon is just a few centimeters thick. So, you know, maybe a couple centimeters of O, a couple centimeters of A, and then when we get to like, 6 centimeters here or so, this is 10 centimeters, 20, 30, 40, then we start to get into the B here. And so we've got this weak B, crumbles, doesn't have much structure at all. You can see as I poke at it, it just kind of comes, you know, straight off like that. And then as I'm digging through, I start to hit this kind of other B that's got a little bit different structure to it. You can see how the soil beds kind of break off. There's smaller rocks in some of it, but the beds kind of break off. One way to do it is to go into the side here too, and you can see it's got a little bit of structure, but very weak structure. But it is slightly different, not so much in color, than to about 30 centimeters. as it is in structure. And so I would start to call that a different B horizon. And then this is really cool down here. We get some old buried organic matter, you know, and this isn't from the logging, obviously. This is some, I mean, well, it might have been from logging when it was logged originally, you know, back in the early 1900s. But, you know, you've got this area here of like some root channels in there. You've got some redox reactions going on in some of these root channels as well. We noticed there was some cottonwood back there. And also we've been learning too that roots respirate and can cause some chemical changes in the soil, which also help produce that redox reactions. But then we kind of start to lose the structure that we had up above, and it gets a little bit more crumbly, let's say. But we're getting way deep into some buried stuff here. Here's a big root there. But it's always interesting to see what you find. Buried organic matter, roots, things like that. You know, the roots definitely go down, you know, quite deep here, at least over 60 centimeters. But you have an area where it's crumbly, B horizon, and it gets a little bit more structure, kind of around the 30 centimeter, you know, to 40 or 50. But then getting into 60, and especially around the root areas and the larger rocks, you lose that structure. That's about all I have for this pit here. There's definitely more interesting things to see, and so I think we're going to get moving on to the next one. I hope you found this enjoyable. I actually, I forgot to lay the horizons out here. So here's kind of the A horizon that I'm trying to get, and then this B1 horizon here, and then this B2 horizon here with a different structure, and then getting down into some of this stuff too, which some might argue is the same horizon. I would actually myself, because I'm more of a lumper than a splitter, but we definitely have something going on here where we've got more structure. Probably has a lot to do with fungi and the roots that are in that B horizon, that kind of second B horizon that continues down here. There's not much color difference, really hard to tell, but there was some structure difference. Obviously color difference here, but thin A horizon mixing with the O fairly easily. So with that, I think we'll call it and move on to the next one.